Hello everyone, this is an unboxing and teardown of the Team BlackSheep's TBS Vendetta FPV racer, which is a direct competitor in my opinion to the Vortex 250 Pro by ImmersionRC. So I have the great pleasure of unboxing this, showing what's included, as well as the insides and complete teardown of everything. The box includes of course the quadcopter. It's ready to fly, which is not, because you still need a radio system and a battery, and then it'll be ready to fly. Includes different GoPro and camera mounts, the tri-blade props, and some other little things. It requires a 3-cell to 4-cell battery. I know the PowerCube can take up to 6-cell battery, but the motors might not be able to handle it. So of course I think TBS would naturally make a 6-cell version eventually, as the more pro racers are moving towards higher voltage batteries. You need a micro receiver as well. For this setup, I'll eventually use the CROSSFIRE system. I'm using a CROSSFIRE system with my FrSky Tyrannus, with my Storm 210 frame right here. So I've stuffed everything inside here, full OSD and everything like this. This thing performs well, so I'm curious to see how well this performs compared to this. Of course, I naturally think they've done a bunch of optimizations, so it's a matter of time when I set it up. So that'll be on a different video. I'll be on my sister channel, Matrix Wire, that I run. I ordered this off of quadquestions.com. They're based out of Colorado, so very quick shipping from California. I don't have to deal with any customs or anything from Hong Kong and the wait time with that. I also ordered it with some 1300 milliamp batteries, Tattoo World batteries, and they're 75 C batteries. So they should work perfectly with this. It's recommended on the TBS website. It says you should charge at 1C. I got a little notice from that. The Vendetta cost $4.99 at the time of this recording, and then the batteries weren't too expensive also. Batteries were $33 for each cell. So let's open up this box. Very nicely packaged. It's very, very small compared to the Vortex 250 Pro. It doesn't come with a zipper case, but I never really use a zipper case anyway with my Vortex. I guess I could probably just fit this on an airplane or in my backpack. I could just repackage it up and just get in a small box like this. That's really nice. I think it's one of the coolest things. Oh, my pleasure to unbox this everything. Okay, so we have propellers. I believe these are HQ props. These are, from the looks of it, they're 5x4x3s. So the same exact propellers I'm using on my 210 frame right here. Get 8 of them. Get 4 in counterclockwise and 4 clockwise. Get 2 battery straps right here. TBS branded battery straps. You get antenna tubes, which is nice. You can mount your FrSky Tyrannus radio system, the dual receiver or dual antenna receiver D4R2. Mount that through there. Here's the quadcopter frame itself. Very, very nice looking. Monocoque frame is what they call it, or was called. Carbon fiber, and the finish just looks gorgeous. Feels really smooth. They smooth it out. Saves off a lot of weight. It feels very, very strong. So that's the body, and then now we have the arms. And the motors here as well. I believe these are Cobra motors. Yep, they are Cobra motors. 2204 motors, 2300 kV. I'll tell you about how you mount it. I'll go over that in a second. You have some screws and hardware right here. You have a new antenna. They call this the Triumph or Trump antenna, for an exact term, but you're not using the SpiroNet antenna by ImmersionRC. Some battery straps also, straps in general, and then mounts for a camera. This isn't plastic. This is just like a hard foam, so pretty easy to bend around. And then I guess yeah, you get some stickers here. You can use it to bring or place wherever you want. That's pretty much just it on the unboxing right here. Let's do a teardown of what's inside the frame and everything like that. Okay, now we are at the teardown portion of the video. Just to make things look nice and neat, I sorted everything out. Before we tear down the quadcopter, I'm going to show you how to mount the arms and the motors. You have these MT30 connectors right here. You just basically snap the arm into place. And note that the orientation, according to a bunch of photos, it would end up in this direction. I don't think it matters. It might not matter how the legs or the arms turn out to be, but I think that's more important for motor orientation, as this motor needs to be spinning clockwise right here, and then these would be spinning counterclockwise. Once you have the arms mounted in, you take this part of the hardware, and these plates would cover over here. You mount these 4 screws, these M2 screws, into the 4 holes right here before you cover up with this protective plate. This protective plate protects the screws as well as insulates these motor connectors that are connections that are a little bit exposed out. You have about a 1 millimeter gap that shows from here. Just simply use your 2 millimeter Allen key or your hex wrench you have, and just screw this down. To line this up with the MT30 connectors. And then you have a little small screw right here, a 1 millimeter screw, and then with a 1.5 millimeter hex that you'll need to screw this in. Arms are really easy to remove, and you could just package this up back in the original box and put it in your backpack, which is really nice for transportation. Gives you the ability to swap between different arms and motors if you have different configurations and whatever. Now we're going to open up the quadcopter. Let me put the screw back in quick. As I said, you need a 2 millimeter hex wrench. And then we're going to remove these 2 screws, this screw and this screw from the front of the body. Remove the front cover right here, this plastic cover. And then now just gently pull the front part where that PV camera is, and all the electronics slide out. You have access to everything. It's very, very easy to work on this quadcopter compared to the Vortex 250 Pro or the 285. You don't have to remove that many screws. Here's just a look at the carbon fiber frame right here. Very, very nice quality. Smoothed out. You have this diffuser plate right here that diffuses the intensity of the LEDs right here, so you don't end up blinding pilots behind you. Very, very important for a race. This is just glued in right here, this diffuser plate. Make sure that it's secured and glued in, as I've heard of from other forums that this plate isn't very well secured on here. So you don't want this thing to fly out during that when you're racing or whatever. Very, very good build quality. Feels very, very rigid. No flexing or anything like that. So this should be able to handle good impact or crash. Here's just a closer look at the arms right here. These support up to 5-inch propellers. Simply just put your propeller on here and then put the screw on. What's kind of interesting is there's no inserts right here, because HQ props usually have that. I have a bunch of inserts laying around, so I'm just going to end up putting these in and put it on here. Because the thing is that this hole right here, where this hole right here, this part of the motor is actually bigger than here, so it won't actually fill it up. I would recommend using the inserts. And then these are Cobra 2204s, 2300 kV. Ooh, seems a little, something seems to be hitting this. Looks like I'm going to open up the motor and figure out what's rubbing against the inner bell. That's some quality check right there, quality control that needs to be double checked before I actually run it. Next, we're at the inside of the quadcopter. We have our PowerCube right here. We have our different connections. So we have the buzzer port right here. We have a what's this port right here? We have a UART port. You can use it for other things. You have an IR LED. This would be for transponders or for racing mainly. It's for like lap timing, or if you go through the timing gates or anything like that. That's what this port would be used for. It mentions it in Cleanflight. Then you have your LED strip support, this port right here. And then you have your GPS or magnometer, this port right here. You can also use this port for easy OSD. There is a guide on YouTube somewhere lying around, and also some forums on how you would use OSD, a different OSD, if you didn't have the Core Pro PNP. And of course, you have your receiver port. This is currently configured for CPPM, S-Bus, and a different variety. And then we have our Core Pro. This is the actual OSD. Underneath the stack of the cube, of course, you have your flight controller, your 4 ESCs, and on the bottom you have your power distribution board. You have the protective plastic that protects the power distribution or power lines. You have your positive and negative here. That's really important since carbon fiber conducts electricity really well. So in the event of a crash or just this cube happens to move, you don't want it to end up shorting out against the chassis. And the bottom part, the power distribution board, as well as ports that connect your to power the cameras or any other peripherals. Of course, that's not really being used since everything's going to be powered to the Core Pro right here. And also there's current sensing on here. So you don't need a big bulky little current sensor as you see right here. That would be with the Core Pro. Let's remove this Kapton tape right here. It kind of would have been nice if they actually used some screws to hold this down rather than tape, but I guess it saves some weight and just makes assembly a little bit easier. And also, you have your receiver cable. This is just a standard servo head. You can use this other included cable that you would plug into maybe a TBS CROSSFIRE or something else that supports this. I think this is just a default for the TBS CROSSFIRE. I'd have to check. I'm getting my CROSSFIRE Micro Receiver in next week. I have it installed on here. This is how small it looks, the Micro Receiver on this one. What's kind of interesting, I noticed, is that this setup is pretty much identical or exactly to how I have this set up right here. You have your PowerCube right here. You have your Core Pro PNP, except they've decided to remove it from the casing. I kept mine in the casing. It didn't really make too much of a difference. I like to have the case on it. Also, my frame is exposed rather than the frame on here. And then you have your FPV camera in the front. I have some LEDs right here. Then you have your antenna and everything else. Your video transmitter is on the bottom. This one's on the bottom of right here. I still don't know where I'd mount my CROSSFIRE receiver antenna, as your two included antenna tubes would be for a dual antenna receiver, such as the FreeSky Tyrannus D4R2, and it would just mount like this, look like bunny ears. So we remove this tape right here. And we have access to the Core Pro right here. Coming up with a little bit of resistance. And carefully remove these wires right here. Probably the easiest thing is to remove this little 2mm screw right here. That's between the XT60 connector. Right here, that probably holds the rear part of the electronics board. Removing that didn't really seem to do anything, surprisingly. I'm trying to pull this Core Pro out. Give me a second. Alright, now we have the Core Pro out. That was really hard to remove. These connectors are really tight and there's not that much wire slack right here. We have our Core Pro here. We have our 3 different toggle switches, similar to the one that I would have on my other quadcopter, but with the case on. We have our USB port right here. We have our link port, and then we have our port for the video transmitter, and then another port back here, which is I believe it's for battery. This is for battery backup. And then we have our top ports right here. There's these are 2 BST ports right here. You have your RSSI, which is the relative signal strength indicator. That tells you how your your radio transmitter and your quadcopter, the communication link between that. That's really important if you're going to be doing long range stuff. And then of course this would be for our video camera in the front, or our FPV camera. Pretty small. It would have been kind of nice or cool if they could put this into the PowerCube stack. Just would make things a little bit easier in my opinion, rather than having it separate out. And then underneath here we have our Unify Pro, or Unify 5.8 gigahertz video right here. I'm not going to pull this out, but this is just a little closer up view. There's a little button right here. I don't know what that does. This is just mounted or glued on, or double-sided tape to the bottom part of the chassis right here. Then you have your cable right here, this long light that goes to the LED board right here in the back, and then you have an SMA extension cord right here. So that's really nice that it's not mounted directly to the video transmitter. In case of a crash, you can just replace this part. Note that this is actually a RP SMA. I'm not a fan of that, but if you're going to use different antennas, that's really important to know. Screw the antenna on. It's pretty small, and it fits on pretty nice. The camera in front is a TBS 00, I believe. It's using a slightly different lens than the other TBS 00 I have. It doesn't tell me what type of lens on this one. I believe it's a 2.8mm lens, while it says on here it's a 1.3 mega. I don't know, I guess that's megapixels, but I bet it's probably the same lens, 2.8. That's pretty standard on the FPV cameras. It means that your image won't be too wide compared to a lower like a 2.1 lens. You have your battery buzzer right here. This is looks really loud, piezo buzzer, so you should be able to find your model in case you lose it in the bush or whatever. Your ESC cables right here goes right there to your PowerCube stack. Right here is a BST cable that provides the information from the PowerCube to the Core Pro. And as I mentioned, you have another BST port. That's what I would use, the other BST port, when I'm mounting my CROSSFIRE Micro Receiver, so I can display the RSSI. You can map out another channel from the Micro Receiver to the RSSI port. Since it supports up to 8 channels, then you could just send that through S-Bus. If you have a different receiver that does that, I believe the Tyrannus receivers can send out RSSI through another extension or through another channel. You could do that. And put the camera cap back on. So overall, pretty nice layout. Yeah, as I mentioned, with the other BST ports, besides RSSI, you could put a GPS. Don't ask why, but I decided to put a GPS on my 210 frame. I thought it'd just be kind of cool. I'm not going to go ridiculous ranges with this. But yeah, you can add a GPS on there. It's a standard Core Pro. You just put in the BST port. You will need a little splitter to do that, since you're going to run out of BST ports. You could just wire up your own parallel cable or splitter if you want to. There's not really too much room where you mount the GPS. I guess you would mount the GPS on the top of here. You would put your Mobius or run cam up here, and then you'd put the GPS on the top right here at the angle. Of course, you need to calibrate the compass and everything so it works properly. This bigger strap right here is meant for your camera. You just simply take the Velcro strap and you thread it through here, and then you have your camera mounted across on there. You don't really need to use any double-sided tape or sticky tape. For me, I like to do that just for a little bit extra insurance, or so it doesn't remove or come off. You have different angles. This is a 45 degree and this is a 30 degree for your GoPro or your Mobius or run cam. And this foam stuff, again, is it's just foam. It's not any hard plastic or any 3D printed material. As for batteries, it says it supports up to 2,000 milliamp. You could probably go bigger as long as it's taller. But of course, the weight ratio or the differences in weight will eventually outweigh the useful flying time. You have your 2 holes right here for the battery straps that go through here. This is a 2200 milliamp pack. This is a storm pack. You have your tattoo batteries. This battery is really small that it only takes up 1 strap right here. Of course, you could probably move it up to the front if you want, just for weight balancing, so make sure your CG is proper on your quadcopter. This is a 1800 milliamp graphene battery by Turnigy. Very big. See that it fits really well. Your XT connector goes through this hole. You just have to thread it through, and then you just tuck it in like that. Pretty easy to do. Rebel battery, same size as the tattoo battery, and then you have a Venom fly pack. Just mount that through here. I think that covers pretty much it on the teardown. I don't want to remove this PowerCube stack. There's a bunch of videos already online that talk more about the PowerCube, but this is just the overall in-depth teardown of the TBS Vendetta. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them below. And as always, have a nice day.